when families don't blend so easily. I've seen it play out more times than I can count. A parent quietly biting their tongue at dinner. A son shifting in his seat because his wife and his mother can't seem to see eye to eye. A daughter who used to call every Sunday. Now it's once a month, and when she does, her husband's always in the background. Nobody tells you how complicated it gets. When your child grows up and falls in love with someone who, for whatever reason, doesn't feel like a fit. Maybe they don't talk much. Maybe they talk too much. Maybe you just can't shake the feeling that something's off. You try to be polite, try to keep the peace. But under the surface, there's a simmer. Tension, a sense of loss that's hard to name. This isn't about bad people. It's not about villains or saints. Most of the time, everyone's just trying to do their best. But families, they don't always blend like cake batter. Sometimes it's more like oil and water. You can stir and stir, but it separates again when no one's looking. And if you're in your 60s, 70s, or beyond, you've probably felt it. That quiet ache when your grown child builds a new life and you're no longer at the center of it. Especially when their partner seems to come with tension, distance, or even open conflict. So let's talk about it. Not to point fingers, but to understand where that tension really comes from, and what we're often really asking for when we say, "I just don't like the person they're with." Before we dive in, if you find comfort in honest conversations like this, hit subscribe. We share stories that don't just pass time, they help make sense of it. The unspoken expectations we bring. Most of us carry silent expectations, an idea of who our children might end up with. We don't say it out loud, but it's there. We imagine someone kind, someone who treats our child with care, someone who feels like an extension of the family, who calls us by name, helps with dishes after dinner, laughs at our old stories, even if they've heard them before. And then they bring someone home, and it doesn't feel like that at all. Maybe they're shy and quiet, or brash and dominant. Maybe they never look you in the eye or never say thank you. And suddenly, there's a loss you can't quite explain. It's not just about who they chose, it's about what that choice seems to say about where you now stand in their life. Linda, an old neighbor, once said, "She didn't even shake my hand, just gave a half wave and turned away. And I knew I wasn't going to be part of the picture." When our unspoken hopes don't match reality, the disappointment can seep in slowly. It doesn't always come out as sadness. Sometimes it shows up as judgment or distance. We critique the way they parent, how they speak, what they wear. But deep down, we're often just asking, where do I belong in this new version of the family? The loss of the familiar. It catches you off guard, the shift. One day, your child is calling you for advice, sharing their news first, showing up for dinner without needing a reason. And then, things change. Suddenly, they're checking in with their partner before they respond. Plans get made without you. Holidays rotate. You go from the center of their world to the outer edge, and nobody warns you how much that stings. It's not just about liking or disliking the person they chose. It's about everything that seems to go with them. New priorities, new routines, new loyalty. And if their partner doesn't make the effort, or worse, seems to hold you at arm's length, that ache can double. You start questioning yourself. Did I do something wrong? Why do I feel like a guest in my own child's life? I remember watching my friend Ray go through it. His son got married, and almost overnight, Ray said, "It's like I vanished." No arguments, no big blow-up, just fewer phone calls, less eye contact. A slow fade that left him standing still while life moved on without him. That kind of grief doesn't come with a funeral, but it's a loss all the same. And sometimes our resistance to a child's partner is really just a reaction to that loss, to not being needed the way we once were, to being replaced in ways we don't know how to talk about. The clash of values and habits. Sometimes it's not about personalities, it's about the way people were raised. You grew up saying please and thank you, clearing your plate, showing up early. They come from a household where sarcasm was love language, dinner was on the couch, and everything is 5 minutes late. Neither is right or wrong, but when two worlds collide, friction is almost guaranteed. You might see your child's partner as careless or disrespectful. They might see you as rigid or judgmental, and without ever meaning to, both sides dig in. Misunderstandings pile up, and small things feel bigger than they are. I once overheard a conversation where a mother-in-law said, "She never sends thank you notes, not once." And her son replied, "That's just not how she was raised, Mum. It doesn't mean she doesn't care." And maybe that's true, but when someone doesn't show appreciation in the way you understand it, it's hard not to feel hurt. These kinds of clashes aren't really about etiquette. They're about feeling respected, seen, valued. When those things get lost in translation, it's easy to assume the worst. But most of the time, everyone's just doing what's normal to them. And that's the challenge. We think we're fighting about tone, or timing, or table manners, but really, we're fighting for connection on our own terms. The role of loyalty. This might be the hardest part. When there's tension between a parent and their child's partner, there often comes a moment, spoken or unspoken, when the child has to choose. Maybe it's a holiday plan, maybe it's a disagreement, maybe it's just a look across the room when things feel off. And when they side with their partner, it hurts. Even when you know it's how it should be, even when you remember leaving your own parents to build a life with your spouse, it still lands like a punch in the gut. Because deep down, you thought your bond with your child was unshakable, and now it feels negotiable, conditional, like there's a new loyalty in the room, and it doesn't include you the way it used to. I heard a man once say, "I spent 30 years raising him. I changed his diapers, taught him to ride a bike, stayed up all night when he had the flu. And now I get told to please not interfere." He didn't say it with anger, just heartbreak. It's not that we want to compete. Most of us don't. But when our child draws a line in the sand, it's hard not to feel like we're being pushed to the other side. What we want, more than winning the argument, is to know we still matter, that our relationship is strong enough to withstand the new one, that there's room for us in the life they're building. What we're really asking for. Underneath the criticism, the sass, the subtle tension, there's usually something deeper. We say things like, "I don't like how she talks to you," or "He never helps with anything." But what we're really saying is, "I feel left out. I feel unseen. I miss the closeness we used to have." Most parents don't want control. They want connection. They want to be respected, considered, included. They want to feel like their history with their child still counts for something, that all the years, the care, the memories, haven't just been swept aside for someone new. Sometimes the conflict isn't really about the partner at all. It's about the sudden change in rhythm, the silence where there used to be conversation, the way decisions are now made without a phone call, the holidays that no longer happen in your home. I once heard a mother say, "It's not that I don't like her, it's that I liked who my son was before she came along." And that's where it gets complicated, because people grow, relationships evolve. But we don't always feel ready for the pace of those changes. At the heart of it, we're not asking for our child to choose us over their partner. We're asking not to be forgotten, not to be pushed aside, to still be part of their story, even if the chapters look different now. Learning to loosen the reins. There comes a point when you realize you don't get to pick who your child loves, and you don't get to shape their life like you used to. That season has passed. It's a hard pill to swallow. Especially when you believe you see things they don't. Especially when you think the relationship they're in isn't good for them, or isn't good for you. But stepping in rarely helps. It usually just builds walls. There's power in stepping back, not as a way of giving up, but as a way of choosing peace, choosing trust. Trust that you raised them well enough to find their own way, even if it's not the way you would have chosen. I had to learn that myself. My son married someone who didn't warm up to me right away. For years, I held on to little things she said or did that rubbed me wrong. But the moment I stopped keeping score, things slowly softened. Not overnight, but the tension stopped growing. Letting go doesn't mean letting go of love. It means letting go of control, of needing things to look a certain way. And oddly enough, when you stop fighting for a seat at the table, you sometimes find the chair was always there. You just needed to sit differently. Family life isn't a tidy thing. Love doesn't always feel like closeness, and loyalty doesn't always look like agreement. Sometimes it looks like silence, distance, awkward dinners, and deep breaths in the car afterward. But here's what I've come to believe. Most of the time, behind the conflict, there's love. Messy love. Love tangled up in fear, in grief, in the quiet ache of watching your role shift and your place in the family change. If you're struggling with your child's partner, maybe take a step back. Not to withdraw, but to look again. Are you reacting to who they are? Or are you reacting to what their presence seems to cost you? And if you're the adult child listening, know this. Your parents aren't trying to ruin your happiness. They're trying to hold on to a connection that once felt certain. That connection may need to change, but it doesn't need to vanish. It's okay to feel what you feel, but try not to let those feelings build walls that don't need to be there. Because at the end of the day, we're all just trying to belong, to feel like we matter to the people we love, even as the shape of that love evolves. Thanks for listening. If this touched something in you, whether as a parent or a child, I'd love to hear your story in the comments. We're all learning as we go.